Hello students, I'll be taking the topic reproductive system in vertebrates. Now, one of the reproductive methods is sexual reproduction. And of course, vertebrates engaging in sexual reproduction. And it involves creation of new individuals. In vertebrates, this is primarily sexual, meaning the meat or fusion of the male and the female gametes. Now, there are some certain terms or terminologies that you observe in this topic, and you need to take note of them and understand them. Now, when we are talking about the gametes, that's the female and male gametes, we also have to know that there are organs that produces these gametes, and they are generally called gonads. There are primary sex organs, which are testes in males, ovaries in females, hereby producing the male and the female gametes. Another terminology we also need to take note is fertilization, because as soon as the fusion occurs, that the fusion of the male and the female gametes, there's what they call fertilization. Now, this fertilization involves the fusion of the sperm cell, which is produced by the male gamete, and egg cell, which is produced by the female gamete, to form zygote. Let's imagine it as an equation whereby the female gamete, which involves an egg cell, and the male gamete, which involves a sperm cell, undergoes fusion, that's coming together, and form a zygote. Now, this fertilization can occur in two types generally. We have external fertilization, which occurs outside the female's body, typically in water. Example of such organism or animal that this occur or practices is fish and the amphibians. Amphibians, we know, are the toad, the frogs. Another one is internal fertilization, whereby this occur inside the female reproductive tract. Example is the reptile, the birds, and the mammals. Now, as we go on, we'll know more about this. Now we've learned this terminologies. Now we need to understand the organs that undergo this fertilization, that produces these gametes, these cells, and undergoes fertilization. For example, we use the human reproductive system to explain this. Now on the screen, we are seeing the female reproductive system, the male reproductive system. To see this effectively, you can rotate your screen. put your screen on auto rotate so you can see this in horizontal format. Now, looking at this is the female reproductive system, where we have the uterus, we have the vagina, we have the cervix, we have the fallopian tube, we have the ovaries, and some other labels here that we need to get familiar with, like the endometrium, the ligament of ovary, the uterine cavity. And for the male reproductive system, we have the ureter, which is involved in passing out of urine. We have the penis, which is the organ for insertion. We have the testicle. We have the urethral opening. We have the ductus deferens. We have the urinary bladder. So you can know and memorize these diagrams. We shall know more about this as we proceed. Now for the male system, the testes. Now going back here, the testes. This produce sperm and testosterone. This produce sperm and testosterone. It is located in the scrotum for temperature regulation. It is located in the scrotum for temperature regulation. The epididymis, which is a coiled tube where the sperm mature and are stored. Can you see it here? The epididymis is the coiled tube where the sperm mature and are stored. We have the vas deferens, which is the tube that carries sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. Let's go back to the diagram. Now, the vas deferens, which is also called the ductus deferens, is here. You can see the epididymis. So it carries the sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. Now, the urethra is the opening of the penis, where serves as an opening for where sperm is ejaculated or urine is passed out. So it carries sperm through this long pipe here. I'll call it pipe, but it's called the ductus deferens, and goes down to the urethral opening. Now, the urethral opening itself is a dual function tube that carries both sperm during ejaculation and urine. You can see it here. Now, the penis itself is an organ for depositing sperm into the female vagina. Since we are talking about reproductive system, so we just focus on that. Even though it performs a dual function organ, is an organ for depositing sperm into the female vagina. Now the female system. We saw the ovaries. Now, when we're talking about the ovaries, The ovaries, for the ladies, we usually do a menstruation every month. Now, this happens in regard to the ovaries. Now, the ovaries, when they don't get fertilized, now the ovaries produce eggs, and hormones. These hormones is estrogen and progesterone. That's estrogen and progesterone. These are hormones that helps us in developing from a girl into a woman, where you start having your female features phenotypically displaying. So when these ovaries don't get fertilized, it gets discharged through the endometrium and through the vagina, out through the vagina as the menstruation that we see, or the ladies see monthly. Now, going back to this topic, the ovaries produces egg and hormones. We also have the oviduct. Please take note, some of these have dual names, like two names. Oviduct, which is also called the fallopian tube. This is here, is a long tube. This is also called the fallopian tube. It's the site of fertilization. It transports egg. That's the eggs produced by the ovaries. It transports it to the uterus. Now, the uterus itself is a womb. When you hear womb, know it's uterus. Biologically means uterus. Is a muscular organ where the embryo and fetus develops. And this is a process, that development is a process called organogeny. You can read more on that, organogeny. So it's a muscular organ where the embryo and fetus develops. Let's go back and look at what the uterus looks like. Now, that's the uterine cavity. And this part is what they call the uterus. Pointing at that uterine cavity, uterine cavity is where it's called the uterus. Now, the cervix. Now, let me go back to uterus again. The statement muscular means the uterus can widen up, it's elastic, it can expand, and that's the reason you can see a woman carrying multiple eggs can be fertilized, where you can have more than one fetus, and the uterus will still house it. Can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 babies, and the uterus will still house it. Now, the cervix, the neck of the uterus, it dilates during childbirth. Now, this is the cervix. Pointing here is a thin opening that falls out from the uterus. It expands during childbirth. It dilates during childbirth. Vagina is the birth canal and the receptacle for sperm during intercourse. Now, let's go to comparative reproduction in vertebrates, meaning we'll compare the different reproductive system in 3 or more vertebrates here. Now for the fish. Now this table is created to assist you in learning this. For the fish, fertilization is external, development is external, that makes it oviparous, that's egg laying. It lays vast numbers of small jelly-coated eggs. No parental care in most species, and there's high mortality. I will explain this. Now, the fish produces the sperm cells, the egg cells. Externally, it produces it ingests it externally, and the eggs are usually small jelly-coated, and it's always very much. It could be thousands, millions. And when they want to do that, they look for a very private area in the water body, which they call the nursery, to lay those eggs, where there's less activity and where they won't be disturbed. So as they lay the eggs, they also lay the sperm. It's been ejaculated on them immediately. And of course, fertilization occurs. And because there's no parental care, because the moment they do that, they leave the place, there could be high mortality because there's no guidance. So as many as can be fertilized and as many that will survive that process and move to the next stage of zygote formation, as many that could survive, then of course they grow and they move into the next stage, because other prey could come there to eat them. Another one is the amphibians. Amphibians, of course, we know the amphibians shuttle land and water. Fertilization is also external and is oviparous. Egg is laid in water or moist environment. The same process of egg and being fertilized by the sperm cells externally, and they get fertilized, they move to the next stage. And of course, when fertilization occurs, there's what they call larva stage, which is the tadpole. At this stage, the tadpole are usually in the water. They are aquatic. They live in the aquatic ecosystem, aquatic environment. And when they move to the next stage of adulthood, they move to the terrestrial ecosystem, that's land. Here too, little to no parental care is provided. Now the reptile. The reptile is internal. That's internal for fertilization. Here that's the eggs get fertilized by the sperm cells internally in their body. That's what we mean by internal, within the reproductive system in the body. While development is external. That's oviparous. Now internally, there's egg are usually amniotic, meaning the amniotic fluid, liquid or fluid, is present. And this is an evolutionary adaptation. Now, we mentioned from the fish down to the reptile. For students of evolution, those that have studied evolution or yet to, you will know more about this in the topic evolution. So, This egg has a leathery shell and an extra embryonic membrane, which is the amnion, the chorion, allantois, as you can see here, like different layer of protection that protects the embryo and allow gas exchange, freeing reproduction from water. Here, there's no larval stage. Now the birds. We have the internal. Also, like the reptile, fertilization is internal, development is external. That's oviparous. Now, in this case, their eggs are hard-shelled amniotic. Remember, for the reptile, is a leathery shell. But here is hard-shelled amniotic. And there's an extensive parental care. The eggs must be incubated. After the eggs have been ingested by the mother, egg must be incubated. Is either maybe using an incubator or the mother sitting down on the eggs for some time, keeping the eggs warm while formation is going on. So the parents don't still stop there. They feed and also protect. After the eggs, after they have hatched, they are helpless. They are in two phases, an helpless phase and a mobile phase, but they are still young. So the parents continue to still feed and protect, unlike the other ones that there's no parental care. Now for mammals, internal. Fertilization is internal. And development is also internal. Now, for this development to be internal, it is called viviparous, meaning that development is internal. They have the baby. They have when the baby is being ingested or is being given out of the body through the vagina, it is born alive. Unlike the birds and the reptile that to be produced as an egg, then development will now take place. Now development is internal, everything is internal, and they deliver the baby alive, the young one alive. So it's called viviparous. Now, there's another major organ that is very important that is being used it lies by the fetus. Now, this organ allows exchange of materials, exchange of nutrients, gases, and waste between the fetus and the mother. And this organ is called the placenta. And this organ is also delivered along with the baby. It's a cord that connects the baby and the mother. The umbilical cord. Another major thing that also happened in mammal is lactation. Now, when the baby is being born alive, the mammary gland also have developed during the course of pregnancy, and the moment the baby is being born alive, to start producing milk, which it will use to nourish the young baby after birth. Of course, giving it that extended parental care. Now, in all of this shows an evolutionary trend, where in fertilization, there's a shift from external, that's from the fish, to the amphibian, to the bird, to mammal, to reptile, and to mammal. There's a shift from external to internal. And this brings an adaptation from aquatic life to terrestrial life. Then in the egg type 2, there's a shift from soft jelly egg, as seen in fishes, to amniotic egg, which provides a private pond for the embryo on land. Also, there's a shift in development. That's where we're talking about the oviparity and viviparity, whereby development, which is external oviparity, and a shift to internal viviparity in most mammals, in which it offers maximum protection, and of course mortality will be reduced. Also, there's an increase also in parental care, a general increase in complexity and duration, ensuring higher offspring survival rates in these vertebrates. Now I come to an end to this. Thank you for listening.